Hello. I just did a rewatch of probably my favorite franchise of all time. Definitely not the best. I'm going to go through my rankings of the Star Wars franchise, and some of them I really don't enjoy, but there's just something about Star Wars in general that I just love so much. Maybe it's the fact that I was raised on the original trilogy and it's my dad's favorite franchise. And it brings me just so much joy every time I rewatch this franchise. Even the bad ones, I'll still rewatch just for, honestly, sometimes some good laughs. And honestly, sometimes just to make me mad to make sure that I'm still a fan of this franchise. But yeah, so let's just go through all 11 movies. I'm including Rogue One and Solo, not just the Star Wars saga. And yeah, we're going to go from 11 to 1. Let's try to do this quick-ish. Let's go. At number 11, we have Attack of the Clones. Honestly, all of these movies are bad but have their moments. And I feel like 11 Attack of the Clones has basically no moments. There's like one, maybe two scenes that I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But everything else, this is by far the worst writing. Well, maybe not. The This is why it's hard. I made this ranking but didn't write out my thoughts. So I'm not this has always been my least favorite, and the writing is absolutely abysmal. The acting is laughably bad. And there's just Dooku is cool, and that's really about it. Dooku versus um, Yoda is really all I have to talk about this movie. And for that, it's at 11. Number 10, why bring back Palpatine? In what world does that make good sense? Making Rey Palpatine's granddaughter is one thing. I can get behind that. That gives, the full balance of the Force and everything, even though that was solved in episode 6. Uh, I get it. But bringing Palpatine back and making all of their destroyers have planet killing weapons and just this fleet on a magical place, it's just, this movie is so mind-boggling, frustrating to watch and to hear some cringy dialogue. And just had him Ben Solo, now I guess he lost Kylo Ren, and Ray, fighting, being a dyad in the Force, kill me, and then kissing at the end, and then Ben dying and becoming a Force ghost was just the most forced thing ever. And I gotta go back to Palpatine. Honestly, might be one of the worst movie decisions of all time. And I'm being honest about that. I have it a little higher just because the fight scene between Rey and Kylo on the original Death Star is cool. It is cool, people. And also, I like uh, whenever all the ships come in the third act at the final battle on Exegol. I like that. And it was a cool moment, and I like seeing all the ships from canon. But yeah, that's at 10. At number 9, I've always had this at the number 8 slot, but I've moved it down to number 9 because on this rewatch, I realized that if you take away Duel of Fates, for me, if you take away that song, that score, and that, final lightsaber fight, this movie is really pretty garbage, honestly. So, my bias for that being my favorite lightsaber fight, and that being My favorite score, probably of all time. Take those two 5 minute things out of it. And this movie is probably a 1.5 star. Writing's terrible, acting's terrible, story is not that good. It's not very entertaining, other than, the pod racing scene is fun, I guess. And Duel of the Fates. And this movie relies so heavily on that scene for me that I moved it down because my number eight is The Last Jedi. I moved it up above The Phantom Menace for the first time ever. And I put Sorry Ryan because I do really like Ryan Johnson. And I'll admit I get what he was doing and what he was going for, and I think he got kind of put in a rock and a hard place with J.J. Abrams making the episode 7, and then Ryan making episode 8. Was supposed to make episode 9, so he made it his own thing. And then J.J. Abrams came back for episode 9 and really just retconned a lot, and then just really threw both of these movies in for a tailspin. But I have a lot of problems with episode 8, and it's also ranked number 8, but I did enjoy it more on my fourth watch than I ever have. I've watched some TikToks about some Last Jedi defenders, and maybe that got in my head, but it's not as bad as I always claimed it to be. Because once upon a time, before The Rise of Skywalker, it was my second least favorite movie, in front of Attack of the Clones. I liked it more, but I still have a lot of issues with it. And I really can't get over some of my glaring issues. Like, Leia should have either not been in that situation or should have died whenever she flew out of the ship and then freezes and then opens her eyes and flies into the ship. And then the fuel really bugs me. I know some people are like, "Oh, that's such a picky thing to be mad about," but they make that such a crucial, like, they make that the plot of the movie, and it really just aggravates me because that's never been a thing, at least to my knowledge. Um, and Finn could have had a amazing death. Probably one of the best Star Wars deaths, if they would have let him sacrifice himself, because then that could have motivated Ray, and that could have motivated the whole team by this death, and that would have gave her a new anger to want to kill the Sith and lead her closer to the bad if he would have died, because she would have blamed that on them, and that would have been the love thing gone. That would have killed the will they want they. And I think that would have been great, but they had to bring Rose in, who's one of my least favorite characters in Star Wars. And they bring her in, and she doesn't really do much with the story, and she's kind of annoying. And then she saves Finn, and then gives a cringy little sentence, and then kisses him, and then gives a Talia al Ghul Dark Knight Rises type of, yeah. See, it doesn't look good. It is laughably bad. It was so bad. Takes me out of the movie every time. And for that, it's staying at number 8. I liked it more, but I'm not going to be drastic with it. At number 7, I have Solo. Solo is a lot of fun, and it's a like nice little prequel that's, very on the boots on the ground. There's no like lightsaber fights or anything like that. And I like that. I like this look into the Star Wars universe. And I think the cast does a great job. I love Woody Harrelson in this. And my biggest thing for this is that it's fun. It's what I wanted out of a Solo movie. I wasn't expecting it to be the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. I was expecting it to be fun, to be a heist, and to have some cool characters. And they provided on all of those. I also, like I said in the comment, Donald Glover is one of my favorite casting choices Star Wars has ever made. And I think him as Lando is pure perfection. And I just made a TikTok about how I am begging for a Donald Glover, Lando Calrissian movie or TV show. Honestly, I would prefer a TV show to come out of the Star Wars universe. And I'm hoping it happens in the future. I'm praying. At number six, I have Return of the Jedi. It's fun, but out of the original trilogy, I think it is like easily, in my opinion, the worst. And I think it has the most flaws. And I like the Darth Vader, being the, balance of the Force and returning to good. But a lot of the updates that this movie has had have are terrible. Like I'll never forgive Disney for adding the CGI alien singing in Jabba the Hutt's place. Oh, it's so bad, so bad. Um, but it is a good movie. I have it at a 4 out of 5. I'm pretty sure. I do love it. I love the story, but I just think this, out of the remaining five, especially, I feel are all better and have just so much more to offer me. So this is the start of the sauce. I rewatched this last night, The Force Awakens. I always loved this. And I was this close to putting it over A New Hope, but I felt like I would regret it, especially putting it into the online atmosphere. So I didn't. But I love this movie. I think the world building and some of the new planets are awesome. I love Han reuniting with Leia, and they don't really, give you the full story of what happened until later in the movie, and I love that. I love Ben, Kylo Ren, and Han meeting up, and Kylo killing him and does, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. The first time he says that, it was hard and it was sick. The biggest thing for me is this was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters, and I went with my dad on the midnight premiere, and I have just so much joy from that memory of me and my dad sitting with a large popcorn and two large cherry cokes watching this movie and taking him back to the 70s and 80s when he was watching the original trilogy, and me my whole life watching the original trilogy and the prequels and being so just in love with them, and then finally being able to see them on the big screen. That is a moment that I'll never forgive. It's that, Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home are like my four best theater experiences. So that probably elevates it a lot because every time I watch this, I just have a smile on my face. But all in all, it is a really good movie. It might be A New Hope in just a different font, but I'm okay with that. It's been from the time episode 3 came out to now to episode 7, I think it was like 15 years or something. Start with something like give us a fresh look, but use what worked. I'm totally fine with that. Kylo Ren is a sick villain. Adam Driver is amazing as Kylo Ren. I like Rey, and I like bringing, a female Jedi to the front of the screen, the big screen, other than like Clone Wars and stuff. And I like that. And I think Daisy Ridley is amazing. I like the addition to Oscar Isaacs and John Boyega. I just think this is the most cohesive of the new movies, the sequels. And I really do love this movie because, you don't see Luke until the very end. So it's really just all brand new faces of the power because Snoke's new, General Hux is new. Like all these characters you didn't know. And then in the background, you have Han and Leia. That's really it, and Chewbacca. But everybody else, I love this movie. At 4, I do have the beginning of it all, A New Hope, filled with so much heart and so much like creativity. I know people are like, "Oh, it's really ripped off of Dune." Yes, but it is still just filled with so much creativity. And when they made this movie, it does hold up with how good it like for when it came out, it looks amazing. Like for real. And I just think the world building and Darth Vader is a terrifying, menacing villain. And Obi-Wan was great. Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, just like four of the most iconic characters in all of media. And I really just love this story. And it's just the beginning of one of the greatest franchises of all time has to be at least in the top four. Rogue One, just absolutely bonkers. I know this is kind of a mixed bag. Some people love it, like myself. This is the first 5 star out of the ranking. And some people, find it boring and don't find it as interesting as the rest of the movies. And a lot of people don't love Gareth Edwards and his style, but I absolutely think this movie is wonderful. It is beautiful. It is shot wonderful. I love the boots to the ground, like I was saying in Solo. I like this, lens look into this galaxy far, far away because all we see is all these like, say lightsabers and Jedi's and Siths and Republic and Rebellion and the First Order and all that and the Empire, all that. But then you look at just these like everyday people that are just fighting to survive and what they'll do to survive. And that's to fight, and to get hope for the rebellion. And I love Mads Mikkelsen. And he's not in this movie as much as I would like, but he's in it a perfect amount where he really does add to this. And I think this is a story that you wouldn't think you needed to know or to watch. But then for me, once I did watch it, I was like, this adds so much to why the rebellion is doing what they're doing, why it's so important. Because they just show the absolute destruction and the whys and of the empire and what they want to do and how just ruthless they are. So you get this ragtag team who is a ton of fun together, and you get them to basically by themselves, like 6 of them, stop the empire because of what they did. They Luke gets to take down the empire. The score, the cinematography, the acting. I love Gareth Edwards' carelessness about human like lives in this. Nobody is safe in any of his movies. He will kill off any character he wants. And I think the main characters, how they went out, I think that is one of the best endings to a Star Wars movie ever. And then to add on to that ending, you put in the Darth Vader scene, which was just the most aura you could ever get from just a man standing there with a lightsaber. When he turns that on, and then he just kills all those people, it is amazing. At number 2, I have Revenge of the Sith. It's rewatching it. Every time I rewatch it, I think I like it less. Might be crazy to say, but this movie still is just like it's still so good. It really is just an amazing movie. So like watching Anakin turn his back on the Jedi and become Darth Vader is gut wrenching every time I watch it. And just Order 66 is one of the coolest things ever. And that's why they keep bringing it up in shows and things because Order 66 always hits hard. And it started with Revenge of the Sith. I love Obi-Wan and Anakin, how they separate, and you can tell that there's a divide, and you can tell that Anakin is teetering, and they separate. May the Force be with you. Next time they come back, it's with Padme pregnant and basically dead, and Obi-Wan just gives one of the best speeches of all time, and the dialogue back and forth. This is the best written of the prequels. The lightsaber fight is awesome. Seeing the Emperor manipulate Anakin's brain, and you can just from the end of two, but really the beginning of three until the fight, you can just see Anakin wither away, and I think they did a really good job about showing that. And my number one, I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time. I have it at my number 8 right now, movie of all time, but it's definitely probably my third favorite movie of all time. Just, I mean, the Luke finding out Vader is his father is probably the most iconic scene ever, probably. And Yoda is just awesome. The kid in me loved it. And I like Boba Fett, Lando being introduced, just all these iconic and important characters to this franchise being introduced. The world building is better, the writing is better, the story is better, the lightsaber fights, even though it's just a couple of years later, have got way more advanced. And Luke and Vader's lightsaber fight is in my top 3, but it is the most iconic lightsaber fight for me. And I think it's the most important lightsaber fight because just every time you watch that father and son duel it out, Darth cutting the hand off Luke, it's just, this movie is perfection in basically every single way. And I love it so, so much. And it's always going to be very dear to my heart. That's my ranking of the Star Wars franchise. For everybody watching, thanks. And if you have any ideas for me, I want to do more YouTube videos. I try to do like 5 TikTok videos a week, and I want to do at least one YouTube video a week. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. But thanks for watching.